I tell you what, I keep forgetting this. God dang it, I keep forgetting to show you Dakota Kai's music.
She's on your roster, right? So I mean,
she is.
when she comes out, just play it.
She will be focused on this show. So yes, after this show, remind me to show you Dakota Kai's music. I've written it down to
Seth
remind
Rollins'
myself.
new music, and I was rather impressed.
What?
I listened to Seth Rollins' new music, and I was rather impressed.
I don't even remember what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think it's better than his like weird, fake hardcore music.
Yeah, well, he loves that shit though.
He loves shitty hardcore music.
He really does. He loves all that fucking bullshit music,
like,
you know?
From First to Last and like
Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah.
All those fucking pricks. What do you call them? Parkway Drive. All those fucking useless pricks. Anyway.
So is that how we start the show off? Just talking shit about Seth Rollins' music taste? I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Fuck you, Seth.
Hey everybody, welcome to Battle of the Brands. This is episode
6.
What, 6?
Yeah.
So this is episode 6. This is the second episode that I think we're releasing in October. At least it is October 31st that we're recording this. So happy Halloween, everybody.
Yeah, I think it'll go up on like 1st of November. But basically, it's
happy November, everybody.
It's about the end of October, so we're counting it as an October pay-per-view.
Yeah, we're going to count it as an October pay-per-view. That way we're still on track for next month, which will be Survivor Series, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So yeah, as a brief recap, my name is Corey, and I am in charge of the Raw brand, and my partner here is Dylan, who is in charge of the Smackdown brand. Several months ago, we both drafted a roster of talent to choose from to book on our shows, with the idea being, can we make a better WWE than the WWE currently has? We have the fortune of this universe not existing in one with COVID, so we do have live crowds, and we're not in the Thunderdome. And yeah, we don't have an NXT brand, do we? No. See, we should have gotten John to come on and be NXT, but then the show would be like an hour and a half every time.
He'd have all the good people, though.
No, he wouldn't, because we'd have drafted them all first.
Well, there's still good people down there that we haven't. Wait, is there? I think we did draft them all.
Well, we didn't draft like Pete Dunne and stuff.
Oh yeah, Pete Dunne. Oh well.
Yeah, oh well. Anyway, yes. So this month is, once again, like I said, our Halloween month. And Dylan, your SmackDown is the spooky show. How much spook do you got lined up for us?
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. There's been more spooky going on in all the other podcasts than there will be in this one, because I kind of forgot about it. Halloween's not really a big deal for me personally. I don't really care much for it, so I totally forgot all about Halloween, which is funny, like you said, given how so many of my other activities and storylines have just been based around the idea of somebody being spooky. Like I go that well an awful lot, and yet I don't care much for Halloween and totally forgot that Halloween was coming up. But don't worry, it will be represented on my show. Would you like to hear the scores? I put a poll up for last month.
Oh, no, I didn't hear them. What's going on with that?
Well, we usually put 2 polls up. One is on our Twitter page. Whatever it is, Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense podcast, I think. WDMS podcast on Twitter. And the other one's on the EWA. You have to search for that one yourselves. So on the poll on the EWA, there was a mammoth 1 vote.
Woo!
Thank you very much, EWA, once again. On the EWA, you were the winner with 100% of the votes. On Twitter, there were 5 votes, 1 of which was for you, and 4 of which were for me.
Congratulations.
So if you add them all up, I had 4 votes and you had 2.
Nice.
So I guess the people
Congrats on
think
the win.
that I won last month, which was good because I won the draft, and then after that, you won all the other ones. It's nice to win one other one since then,
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. I feel really good about it. You could change all that this month.
Yeah. Well, let's see about that. Am I going first in the order?
You usually do, right?
Yeah, typically.
Okay. I mean, do you want to go first,
Yeah,
or
I can go first.
here's the recap for both of our shows. Go watch the last show we did,
Yeah.
and you'll understand everything perfectly.
So yeah, we'll do a small recap on my champions. Currently, the women's champion is still Naomi. The U.S. title is in the possession of Mike Bennett, even though he is not the champion. That is still being decided in a best of 7 series between Kushida and Timothy Thatcher. The current standing on that is Kushida with 2 wins, Timothy Thatcher with 3. Right now, the Raw Tag Team titles are recently won by Roman Reigns and AJ Styles, and the world champion is still Chris Jericho. So week 1, show opens with AJ Styles pulling up to the arena on a motorcycle. As he gets off his bike, Roman greets him in the parking lot, and they share a bit of a tense exchange. As you know, ever since the very beginning of the Raw brand under my reign, Styles and Roman have been kind of uneasy partners in their alliance against the stable known as Just Business. They both say they have a kind of compliment each other on their performance at Fall Brawl. They, kind of show off their tag belts. They have a stiff handshake and they enter the arena together. Our first match on the show is Heath Slater with Drew McIntyre versus Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton. At the end of during Fall Brawl, Jinder Mahal struck up a partnership with Randy Orton when he turned on his friends Heath Slater and Drew McIntyre just after they reunited the 3-man band. Jinder is wrestling with a more aggressive style than he had been previously, but Heath Slater is a little too stubborn to quit and give up. At one point, Randy attempts to interfere, but Drew McIntyre is able to put a stop to it. Finish comes when Jinder slips out of the ring to get in McIntyre's face. As the big Scotsman and the ref are distracted, Orton slips into the ring, hits a recovering Slater with the RKO. Jinder gets back in and covers an unconscious Slater for the win. Camera cuts backstage to Just Business in Bischoff's office. While Jericho's in a good mood with his world title across his shoulder, the Good Brothers are fuming that they lost their gold to longtime rivals Styles and Reigns. They want to know what Bischoff's going to do about it, and Jericho just tells them to calm down because Eric always has a plan. A mysterious laughter echoes throughout the arena. We cut to the ring. Becky Lynch with Charlotte Flair versus Mickie James. Last week, Becky Lynch revealed herself as the masked woman who'd been plaguing the division as she and Charlotte hinted at reforming the 4 Horsewomen in the WWE. James and Lynch are in a gritty fight, but Charlotte makes the difference as she gets Mickey's attention every time she should be taking advantage of a prone Lynch. Eventually, this costs her as she walks into a Bexploder suplex and taps to the disarm her. Despite the bell ring, Lynch isn't letting go. She's going to break Mickey's arm. Someone slips into the ring, though, and chases the 2 horsewomen off. It's Mercedes Martinez. Lynch and Flair glare at her as Mercedes checks in on Mickie James. Backstage interview is being held with Timothy Thatcher and Kushida as the interviewer recaps the score of their best of 7 series. Thatcher is up 3. Kushida is only at 2. Match number 6 is next week, and Kushida has to get the win if he wants to force a match 7 to potentially win. Thatcher snickers at the notion because, it'll go that long, referencing how beat up Kushida's shoulder has been throughout the whole series. Kushida is still confident in his chances, but they're interrupted by Mike Bennett, who still has possession of the U.S. belt. He wishes both competitors good luck and damn near starts a riot as the 2 guys attempt to get to him, but security is quick to break up the fight. Up next is Los Ingobernables versus the Lucha House Party. It's a fun, high-flying match that's ultimately won by Andrade with a cradle DDT. After the match, Andrade extends a fist bump to Kalisto, but Metalik and Dorado keep him from getting near Andrade, who just kind of laps it off with his friend Garza. Ring, it's been set up to be a moment of bliss. Bliss's guest this week is her BFF Ruby Riott. Together, the women reflect on how Naomi has been ruining the women's division as the worst champion the company has ever seen. Riott discusses their long history and how Naomi had to cheat her every time to beat her when they fought, despite that not being true at all. Naomi comes out and Riott and Bliss taunt her as she just calmly walks to the ring. As soon as she steps in, though, she jumps Bliss and it's a fight. Riott tries to save her buddy, but gets clocked in the process. Eventually, security is able to break it up. But Bliss is distraught as the set of her show has been destroyed. Up next is the Good Brothers versus Mustache Mountain. The match ends almost as quickly as begins. Gallows and Anderson are not in a mood to play tonight, and they make quick work of 7 with the Magic Killer. Bischoff comes out and congratulates the Good Brothers on the win before calling out AJ Styles and Roman Reigns. After the champs arrive standing among the crowd in the arena, Bischoff states that he knows there are a lot of hurt feelings between the two teams, so he announces a rematch for next week's main event for the titles. However, before he finishes his next sentence, a choir starts to sing throughout the arena. Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy make their entrance and their debut, and they let Bischoff know that they've been waiting patiently for the past month to make their presence known in Raw, but there's been all this back and forth between Styles and Reigns and the Good Brothers. What the Raw brand really needs is an awakening, a great awakening. They're here to save the WWE Tag Team division. Gallows and Anderson call the pair a bunch of assholes and tell them that just business runs this company. Maybe they can go over to the Smackdown brand where all that goofy, spooky shit flies, but only real men fight on Raw. Seth Rollins states that he's happy to make an example out of the Good Brothers right here and right now. So Rollins and Murphy rush the ring, and a brawl ends on Raw as the champs watch on. Week 2. Our show opens with the best of 7 series match number 6, Kushida versus Timothy Thatcher. Thatcher and Kushida know each other very well at this point, and it shows. They are countering each other's counters, but Kushida is doing his best to protect his injured shoulder. Thatcher goes on the offense, but Maria Kanellis comes out to distract the ref. With his back turned, Bennett slips into the ring and clocks Timothy in the back of the head with the U.S. title, and then slips out just as quickly as he came in. Kushida didn't see anything, though, and locks in the hoverboard lock. The ref calls for the bell, assuming that Thatcher passed out from the pain. Kushida has tied the series 3-3 and forces a match 7. Mike Bennett walks back up the ramp with the title and a smile. Jericho is backstage with a world belt, and he's on top of the world. He lets the WWE Universe know that being the champ has so many perks, mainly being you get to call your own shots whenever you want. So he put down Montez Ford at Fall Brawl. Styles and Reigns are both tied up with the tag belts, and there isn't a worthy challenger in the company. So his plan for Halloween Havoc is to sit on his ass, watch Sharknado 3, where he plays Bruce the Ride Operator, and enjoy as many Snickers bars as he can.
Delicious Snickers bars.
Randy Orton steps up to him, though, with a smile. He tells Jericho that he's never defended the belt against him. So far, Bischoff has kept the two of them apart because he knows that Orton will dismantle his chosen one. Montez Ford also approaches from the other side of Jericho and reminds Orton that he's beaten him already, and he came close to getting the win over Jericho. He wants one more shot. As things get tense between the three of them, that weird laughter echoes through the backstage hallways, the same that echoed through the arena last week. And all three men slowly leave without another word, a bit unsettled by what's going on. We cut back to the ring. It's Charlotte Flair versus Mercedes Martinez. Last week, Martinez made the save on Mickie James when Becky Lynch tried to break her arm. The veteran Martinez is dominating Charlotte early on, but a timely interference from Becky Lynch swings things in her favor. Before more of a factor, Mickie James runs down the ramp and chases her off. Mercedes ends up picking up the win over Charlotte, who leaves the ring licking her wounds. Right now, we cut backstage to the Lucha House Party, and they're being interviewed about what happened last week. Kalisto says that, it was nothing, that his family and Andrade's were close when they were younger, and he was only trying to show his respect to him. Andrade and Garza interrupt the interview, claiming that they're there peacefully, and they just wanted to thank Kalisto and Metalik last week for a good match. The pair accept the thank you, and the interview ends with Dorado and Metalik confused with what's going on with Kalisto and Andrade. We're back in the ring. It's Slater and McIntyre versus Los Ingobernables. McIntyre and Slater use their size and strength to overpower the smaller, faster pair. Jinder Mahal, however, rushes to the ring and pulls McIntyre off the apron, and a brawl erupts between the two as the ref calls them off the match. We cut backstage, and Bliss is backstage in Bischoff's office, furious that Naomi was allowed to interrupt and destroy her segment. Bischoff states that he can sympathize with Bliss and offers her a deal. Next week, she'll be allowed to do her show again, and her guest will be none other than the WWE Women's Champion Naomi, with a special stipulation. If Naomi touches Bliss, then Naomi must defend her title against Bliss at Halloween Havoc. Bliss's eyes light up as the cameras cut to commercial. Up next is our main event. It's the Good Brothers versus Styles and Reigns for the tag team titles. This is a heated match between these rival groups. They've been at each other's throats since the very beginning of the Raw brand. But it's the Good Brothers' willingness to cut corners that leads them to take advantage. Styles builds a comeback, but a ref bump and a chair shot to Reigns puts an end to that. Before they can put Styles away with a magic killer, Murphy and Rollins rush the ring. A Murphy's Law to Anderson and a curb stomp to Gallows leaves the Good Brothers down. Reigns recovers just in time to put the spear on Anderson for the win. After the match, the champs extend their hands to Rollins and Murphy, but the pair kick the champs below the belt and end the show with the tag belts in the air. Week 3. Bischoff is out and acknowledges that last week's tag match got a little out of hand. Gallows and Anderson are out now, and they point out that Bischoff is damn right that things got out of hand. They had their match won and almost regained the tag titles, and they want to know what Bischoff plans to do about it. Rollins and Murphy come out now, and they say that's an excellent question. What does Bischoff intend to do? Before he can say anything, Reigns and Styles jump both of their rival teams from behind. Security is out, and it's a pull-apart brawl. Bischoff is furious and says, "You want to know what I plan to do about it? 2 triple threat matches next week. Anderson versus Murphy versus Styles, and Gallows versus Rollins and Reigns. As for now, all 3 teams are banned from the building, and security escorts all 6 men out of the building." We cut to the ring after the brawl has been settled, and it's Angel Garza versus Gran Metalik. It's a fun, fast-paced lucha match. Andrade and Kalisto are out at ringside, and they kind of pal around and chat with each other, which really gets under Lince Dorado's skin. Gran Metalik is distracted by the commotion at ringside and eats the pin. Post-match, the Lucha House Party kind of fight amongst themselves as Los Ingobernables leave the ring. Mike Bennett is backstage being interviewed and asked why he interfered last week in the Best of 7 series when Thatcher looked like he had it won. Simple. If he forces a match 7 next week, that's one more match the winner has to go through before he has to fight Bennett for the belt. A smug Mike Bennett walks off. Next up, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch versus Mickie James and Mercedes Martinez. This match is going team of veterans of Mickie James and Mercedes Martinez, but Flair and Lynch just leave the ring and opt to be counted out instead of continuing, much to the anger of the other team. We are now at a moment of bliss. Alexa introduces her guest, Naomi, and spins the segment, running her down. She calls Naomi a weak champion. She says the only reason she even has the belt is that last month she had to cheat and the ref threw out the match. She says that Naomi was only ever the champion in the first place because she was drafted to the Raw brand, or to the Smackdown brand. Naomi takes all of this very calmly. Bliss reminds Naomi that if she touches her, then she has to defend the title against her at Halloween Havoc. She then asks Naomi if she has anything to say about that. And Naomi calmly tells her she'd love to fight Bliss at Halloween Havoc. Bliss smiles, realizing she's going to get a title, but then she realized what Naomi is implying by that, and Naomi proceeds to beat the living hell out of her. Ruby Riott runs in for the save, but Naomi just tosses her over the top rope and just keeps beating down Bliss until once again security has to separate the two. Up next is Randy Orton versus Montez Ford. This is our main event. These guys have been fighting back and forth. They've exchanged wins a few times now. Jericho's out on commentary for this one. He says that he's looking forward to, shutting one of these guys up, whoever ends up getting the win, and he has to face him. Everyone wants to fight the champ until it's time to actually fight the champ, though. Orton has Jinder with him at ringside, but McIntyre runs down, and the pair brawl through the crowd. Ford is building momentum, but a thumb to the eye from Orton puts it back in his favor. Orton works over Ford's back, but Ford's not letting himself get beaten that easily. He's still fighting back, forcing Orton to hit a blatant low blow in front of the referee for the DQ. Orton then drops the ref for the RKO, and he's fed up with Montez Ford. He's been fighting this guy for months now, so he lines him up for the punt to Chris Jericho's delight. Suddenly, the lights cut out, and that manic laughter fills the arena again. The spotlight cuts the entrance ramp, where a masked man with an umbrella is standing. Is that Jeff Hardy? No, it's Willow. The lights cut out, and when they come back on, Willow is in the ring with Randy Orton. Orton rushes at Willow, who takes him out with an umbrella shot to the torso and then one across his back. Orton goes down while Willow goes up to the top rope. He hits the swanton to Randy. Jericho's beside himself. What is this? This isn't Spookfest Sunday Smackdown bullshit.
Yeah. How did you know? How did you guess the name?
This isn't how they do things on Raw. Willow points to Jericho and motions for the belt. Week 4. Andrade and Garza are backstage talking with Kalisto, and Metalik and Dorado are furious with him as he interrupts, but Kalisto can't seem to understand why they're so mad. We get to the ring at Styles versus Anderson versus Buddy Murphy. Anderson is getting the win with a gun stun on Styles after Styles had already dropped Murphy with the phenomenal forearm. McIntyre is interviewed backstage now with Heath Slater. They came to the WWE to help Jinder, and Jinder turned his back on them. This weekend, Bischoff's making the match official. Drew McIntyre versus Jinder Mahal in a hardcore match at Halloween. Next up, we have Naomi, Mickie James, Mercedes Martinez versus Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Bliss. The face team is getting along, but there is a visible dislike between the heel team. James takes out Flair with a mitt kick. Bliss takes out James with the Sparkle Splash. Martinez takes out Bliss with an Impact DDT. Lynch takes out Martinez with a Bexploder, and Naomi hits her split-legged moonsault on Lynch for the win. The camera focuses in on an incensed Alexa Bliss before Ruby runs in from the crowd and takes out Naomi from behind with a heavy steel chain. Bliss runs down Naomi on the mic, telling her that she destroyed the set of A Moment of Bliss, so she's going to destroy Naomi in Hell in a Cell. We have Mike Bennett now coming out for commentary. He's excited to see you the end of this Best of 7 series and who he's going to be facing at Halloween Havoc. Right now it's our Best of 7 series, match 7. Kushida is wrapped up like a mummy tonight with his arm covered in tape. The pair do what they do best as Mike Bennett watches from the commentary table. Kushida ends up reversing an armbar and board lock, and just as Thatcher appears to be getting close to the ropes, Kushida alligator rolls him back to the center of the ring. Timothy has no choice but to tap out. Kushida has won the Best of 7 series, and Mike Bennett gives him a sarcastic round of applause. We cut backstage to Bischoff's office where Jericho enters. He wants to chat with Eric, but Eric says he doesn't have time for him right now, but tells him to wait, that he has an announcement a little bit later. We're now at our second of the triple threat matches, Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus Doc Gallows. Rollins is the odd man out due to his size and flees from the ring as soon as he notices the momentum swinging against him. He's letting the big men fight this one out. Gallows and Reigns are exchanging heavy blows, with Reigns getting the lead. Rollins gets ragdolled when he tries to take advantage, but ultimately is able to steal the win when he schoolboys Roman from behind. Bischoff is out to discuss the world title situation. Last week was Havoc with Montez Ford, Randy Orton, and now Willow, and it's all getting out of hand. So he's just going to nip this in the bud. There's been way too much chaos, and he'd rather get rid of it now than wait for it to build months and months like it has been for other people. So Halloween Havoc, he's putting all 4 of them into Hell in a Cell. Jericho is furious. This wasn't part of their working relationship. Eric Bischoff is supposed to be his non-biased partner. Eric says, yes, they are. They do have a working relationship, but there's an emphasis on that working part sometimes. Randy Orton's RKO out of nowhere. Randy had slipped in behind Jericho and dropped him. Montez Ford rushes in and attacks Randy Orton as well. But what's out on top of the Tron? It's Willow. Willow leaps off the top of the Tron onto the others. There are bodies everywhere as Raw ends for the night. So right now, here is the lineup for the Halloween Havoc pay-per-view. We have a hardcore match between Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal. There's Lucha House Party versus Los Ingobernables. Mickie James and Mercedes Martinez face off against Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. There is a U.S. title match to crown the first U.S. champion, Kushida versus Mike Bennett. There's an elimination tag team match for the belts of Styles and Reigns versus the Good Brothers versus the team referring to themselves as the Great Awakening. In the Hell in a Cell match, the women's title will be defended between Miss Bliss and Naomi. In our main event, in another Hell in a Cell match, it'll be Randy Orton versus Jericho versus Ford versus Willow for the World Heavyweight title. Our first match is the hardcore match. This is a brutal fight between former friends, Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal. Drew ends up wrapping his boot in barbed wire, but misses the Claymore. Jinder hits the Colossus on the onto thumbtacks for the win. So far, it looks like Jinder Mahal's alliance with Randy Orton has been paying off in dividends for him. Up next is Lucha House Party versus Los Ingobernables. This has been a heated situation between Lucha House Party and Los Ingobernables, as they feel that Los Ingobernables are trying to drive a wedge between them. The situation is heated. There are less flips and dives and more emphasis on stiff chops and blows. Kalisto is inadvertently knocked off the apron by Grand Metalik, and Metalik gets rolled up by Garza for the pin. After the match, Kalisto and Metalik share a very tense argument that Lindsay interrupts. They hug it out, but you can tell there's still a lot of tension as Andrade and Garza watch on. Up next is Mickie James and Mercedes Martinez versus Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. Mickey starts out the match and is cut from her corner completely and gets worked over by the horsewomen. Every time she seems to get close to Mercedes, she's dragged away. Finally, she's able to make the hot tag, but Mercedes turns on her and starts beating her down. She then steps back outside of the ring, tags a mostly unconscious Mickie James, and then allows Charlotte to pick her bones and win. 1, 2, 3. All three women stand over a fallen Mickie James and hold up the 4 horsewomen signal. Up next, the U.S. title match, Kushida versus Mike Bennett. Bennett's able to take advantage of that busted arm. Kushida has been fighting valiantly through this, but it's way too much. Kushida has been in 7 grueling matches over the months against a submission specialist. That arm is in pieces, and Mike Bennett's able to take advantage and get the win on a spear. Mike Bennett is officially the United States champion on the Raw brand. Next is our tag team elimination match. It's AJ Styles and Roman Reigns versus the Good Brothers versus the Great Awakening. This is a long one. There's one man on each team that's considered legal. The first elimination is the Good Brothers when Roman Reigns hits a spear on Gallows. Up next, Murphy and Rollins separate Styles and work him over. Styles gets the tag to Reigns, who cleans house. Styles is able to tag back in and set up Murphy for the phenomenal forearm. However, Rollins shoves Reigns into the ropes, and Styles lands gut first on the steel cables. Reigns gets tossed out of the ring, and Styles eats a curb stomp. Rollins and Murphy pick up and are the new tag team champions. Up next is Hell in a Cell for the women's title, Alexa Bliss versus Naomi. The cage lowers, and Naomi and Bliss are brawling. This isn't a match. This is a fight. Weapons are coming out. The cage is being used against each other's flesh. Ruby tries to come out and break into the cell. Even if she can't, though, the distraction is enough for Bliss, who hits Naomi across the back with a lead pipe. She keeps hitting her again and again and again before she dives off the top rope with a sparkle splash and gets the pin. 1, 2, and 3. Alexa Bliss is the new WWE Women's Champion. Right now, we have a Hell in a Cell match for the World Heavyweight title. This is the main event. It is Randy Orton versus Montez Ford versus Willow versus Chris Jericho. This is a clusterfuck. I mean, no other way around it. There are bodies everywhere. The cell door opens, and everybody's brawling out into the crowd. They're flipping over the announce table. Guys are getting thrown into the stairs. At one point, Willow sets up Randy Orton onto a table and climbs the cell before hitting a swanton from the very top of that massive steel cage. Ford and Jericho are alone now, though. Willow has taken himself and Randy out of the match entirely. Ford misses with a frog splash, but walks right into a Judas effect as he's recovering. 1, 2, and 3. Chris Jericho retains. And that is the end of Halloween Havoc.
Okay. I really like your women's division.
Yeah.
I really like the stuff going on with that. There's a lot of you're keeping everybody busy and involved with like interesting storylines. I really like that. Mike Bennett as U.S. champion, I like that. It's nice to shine a light on that guy. I am constantly bemused by your determination to push Jinder Mahal. I don't
it's because you hate him so much, really.
I understand. I'm like, look at the rest of the guys on your show. And why Jinder?
I liked Jinder as champion because it was so unexpected, and I think that he really was someone who made the most of the situation that he was put in. So I think that he could have done a lot more than he had the opportunity to do.
Okay. I mean, in my opinion, it was unexpected, and it was an interesting way to push somebody new. But the problem was, like, Jinder definitely wasn't ready for that. Like, he just wasn't great on the mic, and he wasn't that good in the ring. Like, he couldn't, like, he did his best, like you said, but his best wasn't, like, anywhere close to what it needed to be.
Wasn't good enough.
No, good God, no. Like, what a weird... Like, if you were going to have a pop with anybody, again, like, if you look at that roster, if you're going to give anybody a first-time title shot like that, why would it be Jinder Mahal out of all the other people they could have used? You know what I mean? Like, they have such talent, and they that opportunity on a guy who, despite doing his best, like, just didn't have the capabilities to fucking properly take advantage of it. I mean, at least in our version, it's all fiction, so you can pretend that he's good on the mic. You know, you can pretend that he's a good worker. But in real life, it didn't work so well. Yeah, dude, your shit's sounding really good. You got a lot of stuff going on.
Thanks.
I like it. I dig it. So well played. I really do like your women's division. I'm really enjoying that.
Thanks. I really wanted to. Naomi's another wrestler who I feel like she's never really gotten her due, even though she did hold the SmackDown Women's title for a little bit. So I really wanted to put a lot of emphasis on her starting out because I think it's easy to be like, oh, Charlotte's a champion, or oh, Becky Lynch is a champion, but
Right.
I try to do stuff that's a little different. What did you think of my spooky use of the Jeff Hardy persona of Willow?
Well, I wasn't gonna touch on it too much because I didn't want to talk about it. But as you know, I'm not a big fan of the Hardy Boys,
I know you're not.
and I'm especially not a big fan of Willow because I think it's this stupid garbage, nonsense fucking storyline that doesn't make any sense and wasn't interesting. But you know, that's my opinion. Clearly, your opinion is no. Let's put them on TV. You know, and that's fine. Wouldn't have been what I would have done, but you know.
Well, and my reasoning for that, right, has been like I knew that October was going to be like kind of the spooky month, and I wanted to do something that was kind of unusual and kind of supernatural, but like I didn't draft that, you know.
Mhm.
So as I'm looking it over, that's when I remembered, oh, that's right, Jeff Hardy has that alternate persona that he spent like a year doing in TNA.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I have Hardy, so why not do it? It's kind of like with Andrade. They didn't call his team with Garza Los Ingobernables, but Andrade in Mexico is a founding member of Los Ingobernables. So to me, that's a correlation I can use.
No, I dig it. That makes sense. But you know, is it gonna be a Halloween thing or is it gonna be Jeff Hardy like comes in and out of it thing?
That remains to be seen. I mean, Jeff
Okay.
Hardy, the reason that he went into it is seemingly because last month at Fall Brawl, Randy Orton hit him with the punt and he got stretchered out. Maybe
Okay.
Randy Orton knocked something loose.
Maybe. I mean, I would argue that there's always been something loose in Jeff Hardy, but just me. Yeah, dude, I liked your show. It was very good, except for the Jeff Hardy and Jinder Mahal bit. But the rest of it was fine. Would you like to hear my bullshit
By all
story?
means.
Okay, so this is Smackdown. We've just heard about how great Raw is, so please, you know, everybody listening, put your expectations to one side as we get down to SmackDown. Let me read these to you in no particular order. You always go like show by show. I always go like storyline by storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. It's just easier for me to do it that way. So let's just kind of read out what I've written down, and then I'll get to the pay-per-view. So we're gonna start with Shayna Baszler. She is the women's champion. She has a little bit of an uneasy alliance with Billie Kay. Billie Kay really just wants to buddy up to the champion so that she doesn't have to get her ass beat by Shayna Baszler like everybody else is. Shayna Baszler doesn't mind this too much, but also she is irritated by Billie Kay. So it's a bit of a interesting relationship there. Asuka is in a group with Kairi Sane and Io Shirai, and they are still gunning for Shayna Baszler's championship after Shayna Baszler defended her championship last month against Io Shirai. Ember Moon and Carmella are a little bit of a buddy thing since everybody else seems to be teaming up. Carmella and Ember Moon have come together to just look after themselves. Dakota Kai is the newest member to the SmackDown roster women's division. She's all by herself. She doesn't have anywhere to go. She doesn't fit in with a Japanese contingency. She doesn't fit in with Billie Kay and Shayna Baszler. Not really fond of Ember Moon and Carmella, so she's kind of by herself. Baszler issues an open challenge to anybody who wants to fight him. Dakota Kai answers because she's got nothing better to do. But Billie Kay comes out and like attacks her before the match begins. So some of the girls from the other groups come down to defend Dakota Kai because, you know, an injustice is going on here. Billie Kay just attacked her for no reason. So what gets decided upon is that we're gonna pick a girl from each of those little groups, and they're gonna have a fatal 4-way to determine who's gonna be the next number 1 contender for Shayna Baszler. So we're gonna have Billie Kay, Kairi Sane, Ember Moon, and Dakota Kai in a fatal 4-way. The winner of that is going to go on to the pay-per-view to fight Shayna Baszler. So in that, we have Ember Moon pinning Billie Kay during that match. Shayna Baszler is very annoyed at how bad of a job Billie Kay seems to be doing, being at her side, and she kind of blames her on that. She has Billie Kay fight Carmella on the next episode of Smackdown to get revenge on Ember Moon. Billie Kay she's trying to impress Shayna Baszler, so she sneaks a win over Carmella, and she tells Ember Moon, this is what you're going to get coming at the pay-per-view. Shayna Baszler is going to do even worse than this. Dakota Kai, Kairi Sane, and Carmella decide that now that Ember Moon has got the title shot at the pay-per-view, the three of them are going to have another match as well to settle some differences and to see who should be like the unofficial number 1 contender after that. So they're going to have a match as well. Dakota Kai, Kairi Sane, and Carmella are going to have a triple threat match at the pay-per-view. So after that, we've got Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sheamus. On the last show, we had a fatal 4-way match for the Intercontinental Championship. Sheamus versus Shinsuke Nakamura versus Brian Kendrick versus Cesaro. Brian Kendrick, the Weasley Intercontinental Champion, lost his belt to Shinsuke. So Shinsuke is now the new champion. Sheamus is a little annoyed about that. He's like, those other guys shouldn't have been in the match. It should have been me, Sheamus, against Brian Kendrick. I should be the Intercontinental Champion, not Shinsuke Nakamura. This isn't fair. This is some kind of racism. We need to have a one-on-one match. Shinsuke's not that concerned. He's like, all right, whatever. He's kind of like letting people, if they want a title shot, he'll give them a title shot. For example, he defends a belt against Aleister Black on an episode of SmackDown. So after that, Sheamus comes out and says, I want a match for the Intercontinental Championship too. To which Shinsuke says, that's fine. But Sheamus doesn't take no for an answer, even though he got yes for an answer. And he's like, no, I want that title shot. And Shinsuke's like, I said you can have it. That's fine. So Sheamus keeps trying to, because he's not used to that. Usually in wrestling, people just don't say yes right away. So Sheamus is like, I'll make him give me a title shot. So he tries to run over Shinsuke with his car. And the third week, Shinsuke's like, dude, I'll give you a title shot. What are you doing? So finally, Sheamus is like, oh, I'm sorry. My mistake. That's fine. Let's have a title match. So they decide to have a title match at the show. So that's that one. Brian Kendrick, the former Intercontinental Champion, very annoyed. It wasn't fair. All he wanted to do was retire as Intercontinental Champion forever. And his dream was taken away from him by Shinsuke Nakamura. But also, he thinks by Sheamus, not Sheamus, by Cesaro. He blames Cesaro for all of this business happening in the first place. All Brian Kendrick wanted to do was go home. And it was Cesaro who got in his face and made him defend his championship, which Brian Kendrick did. And Brian Kendrick walked away with the championship after that match got thrown out. Cesaro then wanted another match, which turned into the Fatal 4-Way match. Therefore, Brian Kendrick says, this is all your fault. You got greedy. And now, because of you looking for more and more championship shots, I've lost my belt. It's all your fault. So Brian Kendrick takes the initiative and challenges Cesaro to a match on SmackDown. Cesaro agrees. So they start having a match. But then halfway through the match, Brian Kendrick's like, the hell with this. He walks away, walk into the backstage area. He loses by countout. So the next week, Brian Kendrick claims that he wasn't ready. They sprung that match on him on the night. He didn't stretch enough. He wasn't ready. It wasn't fair. But this week, he's totally ready. So we'll have a match this week instead. Fine. Before the match happens, Kendrick gets a phone call, a very important phone call, and he has to leave the arena. So Cesaro, he's ready to fight. He's got his gear on. So he's like, well, I want to fight somebody. He fights Shelton Benjamin, who we're going to hear about more later. But he fights Shelton Benjamin on this episode of SmackDown. They put on a clinic. Really good match, as you would imagine. Cesaro versus Shelton Benjamin. However, Cesaro, he's just too strong, and he ends up getting the win. The week after that, Brian Kendrick turns up and he says that the phone call was about his sick wife, who is very sick and also is real. and there's nothing he could do about that. How could he was looking after his sick real wife, but this week he's definitely ready, and he's ready to have a match with Cesaro right now. Cesaro says, "Listen, man, I have a feeling that this week you're not ready either. We're spinning our wheels here. Why don't we have a match at the pay-per-view? You and me, we'll just have a good old fight. That gives you plenty of time to prepare, plenty of time to, get rid of your sick wife. There's all, you've got a couple of weeks." Brian Kendrick agrees. He says, "Fine, we'll have a fight at the pay-per-view." But before the end of the night, Kendrick attacks Cesaro backstage, hitting him with a chair and telling him that he doesn't even need to prepare because he's ready right now. So they're going to have a match at the pay-per-view. Spooky stuff. I haven't even told you what the pay-per-view's name is, and you came pretty close, I got to say, but guessing what it was earlier. Very, very close. Where was I? Brian Kendrick versus Cesaro. The next match, the Undisputed Era versus DIY, which is Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. After SummerSlam, there were teaser vignettes being played on Smackdown about a new tag team that's coming soon. And then after the last show, there's more. This isn't just a new tag team, but it's one of the most revolutionary tag teams that SmackDown's ever seen. It's so great. They're really great, full of great wrestlers, and they're great. And it's going to change the game. After the last pay-per-view, a vignette aired saying they were finally going to debut on SmackDown the next week. So on the night, everybody's glued to their screens. They're like, I can't wait to see what it is. Who could it possibly be? This magnificent tag team that's going to come out and change the game. And lo and behold, who comes out to the fanfare? But Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, the B team. They're like, we're the best team. Here we are. Thank you for those wonderful vignettes. It's very, very, very sweet of you. And then DIY come out onto the stage and say, actually, I think you'll find those vignettes were for us. We don't want to brag, but we're better than you are. Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas obviously take exception to this, so they have a match right now on SmackDown, and obviously DIY win. It's not even close. So after the match, DIY are celebrating. They've won their first match on SmackDown. Hooray! However, right after that, they are blindsided by Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, who beat up DIY. They also beat up the B team. Because why not, right? It's not going to take too much more effort. The next week, the Undisputed Era come out and say that they are the real revolutionary team. They're the greatest tag team in the SmackDown history, and they are the tag team champions, and therefore they rule the roost. DIY can go suck a dick. DIY come out and say whether or not we want to suck dicks is none of your business. So why don't we focus on the wrestling business instead? Why don't we have a match? So they try to have a match, but it just ends up as a brawl, as you would imagine. The next week, the two teams try to get together and sort business out, but again, it just devolves into a brawl. Like, we're getting nowhere here. We may as well just sort business out the way we always do on SmackDown with a big fight. So they decide to have a match. Undisputed Era are so confident that they're the best team that they're willing to put their tag team championships on the line at the pay-per-view against DIY because they don't think they're the best tag team. It's ridiculous. So now we have DIY versus Undisputed Era at the pay-per-view for the tag titles. And then they have a brawl because they love brawling.
Yep.
Next, we have the Revival versus, well, we'll get to that in a second. Bobby Roode, as we know, has been dabbling in the heavyweight championship division, but he's also been teaming with Chad Gable recently against the Undisputed Era. So, backstage, Chad Gable comes up to Bobby Roode and says, listen, man, you've been fighting for this for a long time. You've been in this business longer than I have. You go for the heavyweight championship. I'll stay right here. That's, if you want to come back and team together, that's fine. But you focus all your attention on Adam Cole. You go for it. Bobby Roode's like, that's very nice of you. Thank you. So he tries to go after Adam Cole. But of course, poor Chad Gable feels very left by himself. He's all alone backstage. And the Revival come around and start making fun of him. They're like, you're all by yourself. What's the matter? You got no friends, etc. You know what it's like.
Yep.
For people, I don't know. So they're making fun of him because they're bullies. And he mans up and he's like, you know what? I'll fight both of you. I ain't scared of yous. And they're like, all right, whatever. We're the Revival. Fuck you. So the next week, it's going to be the Revival versus Chad Gable, which is a tricky business. Chad Gable does his best, but it's one man against two people. So he fights as bravely as he can, but they're beating the hell out of him. Only for a knight in shining armor to turn up and assist Chad Gable, Shelton Benjamin. So
Now, can
he
you do me your favor real quick?
yes.
And you go, ain't no stopping me now.
No.
Okay.
No, I can't do that.
All right.
I'm not
Continue.
allowed to. Court order. It's if I do that, I will get arrested. However, I could take the clip and put that in the show.
Please do.
Make it seem like I said it. Will that do? And okay, so we'll do that. So unfortunately, Shelton Benjamin just
Ain't no stopping me, no!
isn't enough to save the day, and the Revival managed to get the win. The next week, Chad Gable's annoyed. He's like, no, Shelton Benjamin
Ain't no stopping me, no!
only came in halfway through the match. We should have a proper match where Shelton Benjamin
Ain't no stopping me, no!
is on my side to begin with. And the Revival are like, whatever. However, that day, Shelton Benjamin
Ain't no stopping me, no!
is busy. He has a match with Cesaro that we mentioned earlier. So the Revival are like, well, looks like you're still out without a tag team partner. So what are you going to do? The next week, Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin are
Ain't no stopping me, no!
finally back together. And then they're like, all right, now we're a team. Now we're focused. Now we challenge the Revival to a match at the pay-per-view, which the Revival accept because they have nothing else better to do. I think that's fair to say. We have we mentioned Bobby Roode earlier. So yes, Bobby Roode is still gunning for a heavyweight title shot. Chad Gable gives Bobby Roode his blessing to go for it because Chad could probably find a new tag team partner, as we all know. So Bobby Roode wants to bring the fight to Adam Cole, who seems pretty unconcerned since he's got the other Undisputed Era guys in his corner, and Roode has gotten rid of his own backup in Chad Gable. So Adam Cole feels pretty confident about the whole business. But Bobby Roode says, well, think about this, man. The Undisputed Era are in, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. They're currently busy with DIY, and Roderick Strong, who should be in your corner. Those guys are having a little bit of an issue last month. As we remember, it was Kyle O'Reilly. Oh, it was Roderick Strong against Adam Cole for the Heavyweight Championship, which was supposed to be just Roderick Strong lying down, but he had a bit of a backbone and rebelled a little bit. Adam Cole felt unhappy about this, like he couldn't trust Roddy. So Bobby Roode is bringing that up. He's like, remember, you can't trust that guy. What the heck? He says it's Undisputed Era who have been left behind, and Roddy and Cole have a bit of an issue. So really, it's level playing field. Adam Cole doesn't seem like he doesn't think that's the way it is, and he jumps Bobby Roode backstage. He tries to get Roderick Strong to help him because he's like, we're all friends here. But Roddy hesitates, allowing Bobby Roode to get the upper hand. So the next week on SmackDown, Adam Cole comes out with like a really comically oversized bandage around his head, saying that Bobby Roode went too far with his backstage assault on him, and he should be fired. This isn't fair. Adam Cole's a champion, and the way Bobby Roode's just walking around like the cock of the walk, it's not fair. Bobby Roode comes out and says, all right, this is a bit much. You're being a bit of a baby right now. We need to settle this like men. You're not really hurt. Your head doesn't hurt that bad. Let's not be silly about this. Let's have a wrestling match. While Bobby Roode is talking, Roderick Strong creeps up behind Bobby Roode like he's about to attack him. But once again, he kind of hesitates, and Adam Cole flips out because he's like, what the hell, man, attack him. Bobby Roode, obviously, by this point, has turned around and see that Roderick Strong is behind him. So the element of surprise is somewhat ruined there. Adam Cole's not happy about Roderick Strong not pulling his weight. Bobby Roode's pretty happy about how the Undisputed Era seems to be falling apart, and he could take advantage of this. So eventually, they end up signing the match. Bobby Roode versus Adam Cole. Adam Cole being very angry. Roderick Strong looking very uneasy about the whole thing. So that's that match. Next, we have John Moxley and Luke Harper have been a tag team. They've been kind of just running roughshod over the whole company, just beating people up, specifically Bray Wyatt. They've been beating up Bray Wyatt a lot the last couple of months. So they've been doing a lot of kicking ass. But also last week, or the new tag team, or the new pairing of Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan. Daniel Bryan was fighting Kevin Owens in a last man standing match. Eric Rowan came in to assist Daniel Bryan, got him back to his feet, and allowed him to win the match. So they're doing a little pairing right now, kind of like Daniel Bryan's old Eco Warrior kind of thing, where he rebels against everybody for killing the planet and stuff like this. So they're feeling pretty good about themselves too. Rowan and Harper have a bit of animosity between themselves because they used to be a tag team. They used to be tag team champions, but they never really got along. They were just two big guys, but they never really saw eye to eye. They were a bit kind of jealous of each other because they're both big men in wrestling. Not every big man gets the spotlight. They want it. So they're both a little annoyed about each other. Moxley is a little bit annoyed at Daniel Bryan because he doesn't care about what he has to say. Conversely, Bryan is annoyed at Moxley for not listening to him. So, for example, there's a video where Moxley's at the beach. He's drinking beers with one of those like 6-pack holders, the little plastic ones.
Yeah.
And he drinks all 6 beers and he throws the plastic rings in the ocean because he's like, "Fuck you." That's what I think, right? Daniel Bryan is obviously enraged about this. So the next week on Smackdown, he starts choking out. He attacks John Moxley. He starts choking him out with like a modified 6-pack holder. He's like, "How do you like it, motherfucker?" Moxley didn't like it. So Harper and Rowan are eyeing each other up while Moxley and Bryan are kind of going back and forth. And they decide, in their infinite wisdom, let's have a match at the pay-per-view. So we're going to have a tag team match, Harper and Moxley versus Bryan and Rowan. And we got one more match. Then we go back all the way. One more match. Bray Wyatt is I had to have Bray Wyatt at the show. It's Halloween. Absolutely. Bray Wyatt is very confused about his role in the WWE. He used to be spooky. He used to live in a swamp. He used to be a TV kid show presenter. And then John Moxley and Luke Harper came along and ruined everything for him. And now he doesn't know what to do. He's very confused. He doesn't know. He's got like multiple personality disorder. He doesn't know who's in charge. Also, Halloween's coming up. It should be his favorite time of the year because he can be spooky, but he doesn't really want to be spooky Bray Wyatt right now. He doesn't want to be swampy Bray Wyatt. He's having a really tough time. He's at his lowest ebb. He's kind of running around backstage looking lost and sad. So in one episode of SmackDown, he is backstage and he comes up to Aleister Black, his old nemesis, and he looks pathetic. He looks like the TV show host, and he's all like, his tears are streaming down his face. He's lost his creative spark. He's lost any kind of like energy to him. And he begs Aleister Black to help him to regain his spark, to help him fight people, anything. He doesn't know who to turn to. Aleister Black ignores him. Black is ready to fight Shinsuke Nakamura on an episode of SmackDown for the Intercontinental Championship. During the match, Bray Wyatt comes out and just starts crying at ringside. He's really sad. This strange distraction allows him to hit Aleister Black with a kick to the head, so he retains his championship. Black is very annoyed about this. He's like, "You screwed me out of the Intercontinental Championship." So the week after that, he threatens to kill Bray Wyatt, but Bray Wyatt's still crying. He still looks really pathetic. So Aleister Black's like, "I don't really want it. Like, there's no fun in killing a guy like this, It's not. There's no sportsmanship involved." Killing a pathetic man like this. Bray Wyatt's crying. So Black's like, "Why don't we settle this the way that people do on wrestling? We have ourselves a little match on SmackDown." So Bray Wyatt comes out. He's still a TV show presenter, Bray Wyatt. And he has a match with Aleister Black on an episode of SmackDown. Black is just beating the shit out of him because it's like watching a kickboxer beating up like a teacher. You know what I mean? It's like one of them is really good and the other one is not fighting back whatsoever and keeps crying in the middle of the ring. So Black feels really bad about just beating the fuck out of this regular man, and he just walks away. He's like, "I can't beat him up anymore." The next week, whenever Aleister Black goes to his locker room, there's like a big ring of fire around the door, right? So we
Like the
can't
door's on, like, so the door's on fire, or there's a ring of fire
no,
in front of
no,
the
no, no,
door?
no. Do you know like the wall around the door is on
Like the
fire?
frame. Okay,
Yeah, but just outside the frame. So like the frame isn't on fire,
gotcha.
but there's like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
Okay, so it's like all around the door, but like it's too hot for him to like even get. So like the door doesn't burn down basically, but
Yeah.
also it's too hot for like Alistair Black to get anywhere near it. He's like, what the hell, man? How am I supposed to get into my locker room and change? He's just in his street clothes. He knows it can only be the work of one man, so he hunts him down. He goes to the ring. He's like, all right, Bray Wyatt, I beat the fuck out of you last week. I ignored you the week before. This is definitely the work of you setting my locker room on fire. What the hell? I need to change into my clothes. And of course, the Fiend Bray Wyatt finally makes his appearance, and he turns up on the Titantron, and he's like, "You've been screwing me around for a long time, but I don't feel bad anymore because it's almost Halloween. This is my time. This is when I get the most power, the most energy. It's at Halloween. It's my time. And so now I've had enough of you. I was the one that did that circle of flames around your locker room because of my spooky Halloween powers, and there's more to come. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a fight at the pay-per-view. It's going to be, what do they call it? It's like a Halloween hardcore House of Fun match or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Halloween House
there's
of Horrors
pumpkins
match.
and stuff.
Yeah, so they're going to have a spooky-ass Halloween match at the pay-per-view, and then they have a little brawl after that to end that show. So that's the pay-per-view. Let me go down and start at the beginning. I'd call this pay-per-view Spooky Bones Spectacular. Spooktacular. Okay? Spooky Bones Spooktacular. It's very scary.
Super scary.
You've no idea, dude. A lot of spooky scares on this show. So the first match, Brian Kendrick versus Cesaro. Cesaro wins. Brian Kendrick's very annoyed, but, you know, Cesaro's just on a roll. Poor Brian Kendrick. Second match, Dakota Kai versus Kairi Sane versus Carmella. Dakota Kai wins, and she kind of assumes that she's next in line for a title shot. The third match, we've got Revival versus Gable and Benjamin. You know, Chad Gable, Shelton Benjamin,
Ain't no stopping me, no!
both very good tag team wrestlers, have both been in tag teams in the past. However, because they're still relatively new to teaming themselves at the moment, and the Revival have so much experience, the Revival win this time, and Chad Gable looks very frustrated about the whole thing. Number 4, Shayna Baszler versus Ember Moon. Another competitive match. Shayna Baszler, you know, does what she does. Ember Moon puts on a really good showing, but unfortunately, there's a little bit of... Near the end, there's actually some botched interference by Billie Kay, but Shayna Baszler, being as tough as she is, can overcome this botched interference and still manages to beat Ember Moon. So Shayna Baszler still your women's champion. The next match, DIY versus Undisputed Era. They have a crazy competitive match, but you know what? The best tag team in the world, according to them, manages to pull the win out. We have new tag team champions. DIY, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano beat the Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, to be your new SmackDown tag team champions. Nice. So there you go. Match number 6, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sheamus. Shinsuke wins after Sheamus hits Shinsuke over the head with a belt, and he's trying to distract the referee so that he can then hit Shinsuke over the head with a belt. The referee turns around just in time to see it, so therefore disqualifies Sheamus. Sheamus gets very annoyed by this, so hits Shinsuke over the head with the belt again, and then walks away with the belt. Shinsuke wins via disqualification and is still the champion, but Sheamus has walked away with the belt. Match number 7, Moxley and Harper versus Bryan and Rowan. It's just a double count out. They just brawl again. Boy, Moxley and Harper just fucking love that shit. They just brawl all the way to the back. Double count out. Nobody wins. Match number 8, Adam Cole versus Bobby Roode. Near the end of the match, Roderick Strong comes out, and nobody's sure what he's going to do. Whose side is he on? What's going to happen? And right at the end of the match, he hits Bobby Roode over the head with a steel pipe or a lead pipe. Can you make pipes out of steel? I don't know if you can.
I'm sure you can.
It's always a lead pipe. I'm like, don't they get lead poisoning by handling that pipe? I don't fucking know. Anyway, he hits Bobby Roode over the head with a pipe, and Adam Cole retains the belt. It turns out it was all a ruse. Adam Cole and Roderick Strong are the best of friends, and they really made fun of Bobby Roode. So there you go. They got him. And number 9, Bray Wyatt versus Aleister Black in a Halloween House of Horrors match. The Fiend wins because it's Halloween, and it's it's another competitive match back and forth. But good lord, it's hard to beat the Fiend at Halloween when his powers are at their highest zenith or whatever the fuck. So the Fiend wins a match, and like the first time in a couple of months, the Fiend wins a big old match. So that's the main event of my show. And that's that.
I like it.
Thank you.
Well, what I was gonna say is I really liked your introduction of the B Team. It was really funny. I really like what you do with Brian Kendrick in the Undisputed Era. I think teasing the Roderick Strong tension and having that carry over for like a month was really good. I think your women's division is incredible as always. I just love Shayna Baszler and how you treat her. But yeah, no, and honestly, I pick up from your handling that you are not a fan of Bray Wyatt.
Well, I am, but I'm not a fan of Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, right? Because I think it's a good gimmick, but like it in ring, it's just like, well, what is it? I don't quite understand it.
Yeah,
but
he does
I like
the same stuff except he added a mandible claw.
Yeah, but I like the idea of there being 3 Bray Wyatts. I really like that.
Yeah.
So I want to make like the distinction between them all quite different. So you have to establish that regular TV presenter Bray Wyatt is just useless. He's not a fighter. He's just a regular dude. And that contrasts with the Fiend, who is like unkillable. They're 2 different sides. And then Swampy Bray Wyatt is like a third option, the kind of in between, So that's kind of where that comes from. You need to build up that real distinction between the 2 different Bray Wyatts,
Mm-hmm.
I think if you like the Brian Kendrick stuff, I think you're going to want to stick around for next month. I think. I
do the show with you, so I will be here next month.
You will. More so to the audience. I mean, I would hope that you will be here next week or next month. But as you know, I'm a big fan of Brian Kendrick, and I feel like he's the one I seem to be putting the most kind of attention to.
Well, I think you use Brian Kendrick the same way that I use Montez Ford, where it's just someone that you think is kind of undervalued in the role they're in and could do more.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that we're going to see that more from both of us. We're both going to be showcasing this guy that we like more and more without necessarily just giving him the championship straight away, because that's not how you build people.
No.
And that's exactly what I was saying with Jinder. Like, that's not a good way to build.
I had a feeling you were going to come back to
yeah, well, you know what I mean, though. Like, you can't just give a guy the belt and go, well, right there, that's him built. He did it. Right, but if it happens illogically and his championship reign sucks, then you're like, well, it hasn't done anything for him. It doesn't. That's the problem. You have to build him up first, and then when he becomes a champion, then people go, well, that's a legit champion, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a process, and we shouldn't be the ones that have to explain this to WWE, right? But,
exactly.
But there it is. So yeah, dude, I'm excited. I think we both did a really good job with this one.
Yeah, no. So you mentioned next month. Next month's going to be a bit of a weird one because in the WWE there are 4 big pay-per-views. They are the Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and WrestleMania. So on those 4 big shows we will actually have a combined show. We did this for SummerSlam already, where we had an 8-match card, and each of us had 4 matches on that card. Survivor Series, though, will be a little bit different because in current WWE, that's the one time a year that both brands compete against each other, even though that's total bullshit because they have people jump shows all the time.
Yeah.
So basically how it's going to work is that we are going to draft Survivor Series teams. There will be a men's Survivor Series team, a women's Survivor Series team, and a tag team Survivor Series team. And we will have... Now, did we get John to agree to this?
I had talked to him about it a while ago, and he said that was fine, just to remind him about it closer to the day. So I assume it's still fine, and we'll just remind him about it a day before we have to record.
Nice. So what'll happen is we are going to do the same thing we do now. We're going to build our show. And then at the pay-per-view, we present our teams. John, who will have been listening the entire time, based off of the build, will determine who, in his opinion, would have won that particular Survivor Series match. I guess since we did 8 and 8 last time, we would do like what our Survivor Series teams, and then like you want to do like an undercard match each.
Well, let me see. There would be 3 Survivor Series matches.
Yes.
So 3, and then what if we did 2 matches each? So that would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches altogether.
That should be fine. I know the Survivor Series matches historically go long just because of the elimination aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know that I imagine that'd still be fine because I mean we're not actually going to be doing play-by-play of the Survivor Series match itself.
Okay. And
Unless
also,
John feels like doing it, then you know that's on him.
Well, yeah, we'll ask him about that. Are we doing like a mini draft or anything like that at Survivor Series?
So that's I actually wanted to talk to you about it because we talked about I'm at a point where I feel like I could cut people from my roster.
Okay.
So there is the option we could, you know, open that post Survivor Series up for doing cuts. We could open it back up for trades. Like you said, I'm at a point where I don't know if I want to draft new people necessarily. But
okay.
we can talk about that quicker then. We also had talked about this idea of basically eliminating someone based off of like an injury or suspension.
Mm-hmm.
Where I mean at random someone from our roster can be chosen and have some sort of a thing happen to them where they can't, you know, be there for a period of time. So like say that somebody got suspended for an out of ring thing, or someone was injured and they're going to be out for a period of time.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll have some things to discuss off air to determine how exactly we'll want to do that.
Yes.
But I'm looking forward to Survivor Series just because we'll have a third voice on here. It'll be a little different.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be some really interesting stuff that happens at Survivor Series.
Yeah. Well, that is everything that I have. Dylan, do you want to do a quick rundown of who your champions are?
Yes, at the moment my champions are Adam Cole is the heavyweight champion. We have Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa as our tag team champions. Shinsuke Nakamura is Intercontinental champion, and Shayna Baszler is the women's champion. I mean, it really does sound like I booked this show, doesn't it? This is exactly what I would do if I was booking the show. But I'm very happy with that.
So my champions are the World Heavyweight Champion is Chris Jericho. The United States Champion is Michael Bennett. The Women's Champion is currently, I can't say her first name because I have an Amazon device in this home that will activate by mentioning the first name, but it is Miss Bliss. Mm-hmm. And the Tag Team Champions are Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy.
Nice.
So that is going to cover our show for today. Dylan, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just vote for me in the poll, everybody, because I don't have Jinder Mahal on my show. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, the only thing I have to say is, you know, happy Halloween, even though it's probably going to be November 1st when this gets loaded up.
Yeah.
So well, I hope everybody who's listening to this didn't go out and do stupid stuff. You know, for God's sakes, if you do have to go out, wear your damn mask, wash your hands.
Well, that's the good thing about going out on Halloween is that everybody wears a mask.
Not everybody wears a mask. I used to live in a city that had like a big, huge Halloween party thing, and I'm curious how they're gonna, because some very debaucherous things occurred there that, you know, it's like Sodom and Gomorrah sometimes.
Oh, great times.
Absolutely. Did you ever wanted to see a guy dressed like Walter White have a sexual act performed on him by someone dressed like Lady Gaga against a trash can? Because I've seen it and it's unusual.
I've already seen that.
That's my fan fiction. Anyway.
Lady Gaga, Walter White.
Yeah, you know. He's
What an
like,
odd fan
he's like,
fiction.
say my name, and she moans it very loudly.
I love how you're doing a Breaking Bad fan fiction and you're like, yep, Lady Gaga needs to be in this shit.
Absolutely. You know, you got to open it up. That's how you know, expand your horizons.
Like,
But yeah, I'm Corey, and that's Dylan, and I think we should go.
ah, what a great way to end the show.
All right, bye guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Ain't no stopping me, no!